Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome all to our analysis stream here on lichess and Twitch. I'm International Master William Pascal, aka Sledgy. Guys, we reached $1,500 on our fundraiser for Porto Santa World Senior in November. So we're 60% of the way there to the goal. Nice job. I want to thank Mr. Slower Slow for a $70 donation on Tuesday. All right, Asterbait, what's up, man? My man, Asterbait. The Olympiad is going on. But we're not here for an Olympiad stream. We're here to analyze your games and the games that you submit to my stream. So what is up, everybody? Welcome, one and all. I've got a game from Mr. Slow. Planinch with black against Gligorich. I've got a game from The Power of the New, who I don't know who that is. A game from Paul Nefedov. A game from Sun Prism. A game from Asterbait. A study from Uber Driver, a simul game from Schumacher, and my own edition, an example Kraken. Been playing the Kraken and Blitz again with great effect. All right, so we're ready to get started. I'm gonna wait till Mr. Slow is here to start the. He might already be here. Wait till Mr. Slow is here to start the feature, Mr. Slow game, Master Planinch study. Last week we had no stream because lichess was down for a record amount of time. It seemed like almost 24 hours. So I don't know who this Power of the New is. I mean, I'm gonna have to figure out who that is. I am accepting their games in the study, but I don't know who they are. So I'm gonna have to stop accepting them. Yeah, let's go through this quickly. Yeah, this is a known variation. You're supposed to play knight c6 here. This is a trap. I had a student who went into this with white once. Knight c6 is actually very dangerous. After knight c6, white has to be super careful. It looks like white's still okay, but the practical results are okay for black. Surprising to me that b6 is the engine's preference. My depth is on 29. It's Dr. 16. Yeah, now it's finally gone to knight c6. This is a known position. So I would assume that b6 is really bad. Surprisingly, it's not as bad as you would think. But I would avoid playing that move if I were black. This move has very little upside, maybe supporting c5 in some sense, but you're not developing your pieces, you're weakening the pawn. Whoa, what was a pawn chain there? So now c6, so see, this pawn has been displaced. It's no longer part of a chain, thus creating weaknesses on the light squares. So black is better off, okay, the passive queen c8 or the more active knight c6. And the idea now is if you take this pawn, knight b4, and now black has at least perpetual threats with rook b8, white has to play c5, cutting the knight off, and now rook b8, bishop b5 check, king e7, queen a7, and we win a bishop with rook takes b5. And this certainly looks rather unpleasant for white at best. So the Power of the New should know this. Okay, now knight to c3, c6. So again, b6 not a desirable move, but we had to do something. Knight h4. And here, there's a game from 2010 where Black played bishop e4. Bishop e4 will likely provoke f3. Surprisingly, f3 was not played. Turns out it's not so clear because you can take here and put the bishop on d5. All right. So maybe f3 is not so great. In any case, bishop e4 definitely possible. This and this are clearly possible. Black's light squares are already so messed up that allowing this capture on f5, which might not be that bad, if Black hadn't played b6 and already had this eruption in the white square pawn chain, I would think you could maybe consider allowing knight takes f5, but the inclusion of b6, if you allow this in addition to this, then these white squares are even more weak. The whole complex is weak. So I think the bishop does in fact have to move. I mean, unless you want to play g6 or something really weird, which would obviously be risky. Bishop likely to get trapped. So bishop g4, and then h3, bishop h5, and now g4, and then we're following an old game from 2005 with Hodgson, Dreyev. Dreyev won this with Black. I mean, not easy to do. So g4, bishop g6, knight g6, hg6, and now g5, which is a new move. Is anybody out there, Astrobate? White plays g5. Black is threatening knight takes g4. But, you know, for those of you that haven't seen the lava flow on the light square diagonal here, this eruption, it's understandable. This not only defends, it would not only defend the rook and the threat of knight takes g4, but the kind of a matter of time till the white square diagonal explodes. So this is Julian Hodgson versus Johnny Hector. There was another game there, Hodgson Dreyev, a minute ago. I can't believe Dreyev would let himself play something like b6, but this move is clearly completely different. Not developing a piece, leaving g5, having to be defended. Now does Black play knight h5, knight e4, knight fd7, or knight g8? How do you keep these white squares together? I see possible piece sacrifices in our future. Funny, after this move, I was also thinking about knight g8. Here's a game, Loznikov versus Starostich. Knight g8 at least would allow the knight to come back to e7 and maybe get an outpost square at f5. But here, I'm a little bit worried that our knights are redundant, and it's possible there'd even be a sacrifice at d5. I mean, not to even mention the possibility of e4, but we're just looking for the white squares to explode. This probably too much. But who knows? How does one defend one's rook at AA in this position? How does one, move one's knight to a square where it doesn't fall? One doesn't, does one? And check can be met with the Magnus Carlsen-like king moves, or possibly even bishop d2. So this is really curious. I've got to check this with the engine, but I'm wondering if this works. Takes, takes, takes. Wow, it works. Man, black is lost, it looks like. After takes, queen takes d5. Check. Computer just likes the bishop d2 best. Check. King takes. You're losing the rook or a knight. Better to lose a knight, I guess. Knight c6, queen c6, castles, and at the end of the day, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 against 5. So white is up 2 pawns. Cute, huh? Knight d5, very nice move. White misses that. Yeah, so he misses this combo, instead playing the routine h4. Not as strong as knight takes, CD knight takes d5. Bishop e7, now this knight has nowhere to go. It's a really bad game for new. f4 now. White's getting a little carried away here. Feels like white's getting a little carried away with the f4. And you might want to think about developing your pieces at some point. So I would prefer bishop g2 or bishop d2 and castles queenside. Sun Prism, good evening, wise one. Masturbate gifted a tier 1 sub to Sun Prism. Sun Prism, not a subscriber. Masturbate, give him a minute to subscribe. Thank you, man. Gifting their 749th gift sub this evening. Thank you, Astrobate. So f4, queen c8. Ugh. Bishop d2, knight a6. Now bishop g2. And this is ugly, man. Very ugly. But white has played slowly, and he's allowed black to kind of survive. C takes d5, c takes d5. Now this bishop, you wonder why it wasn't better on f1. He let black survive just too long. Are we losing in exchange? What? White, rook takes c8 check. No, it's just a trade. Okay. So it's a draw now. I'm not objectively sure if black should play f6 or not. Maybe it's... Well, I guess black isn't equal necessarily, even now. This is a nice move. Oops. And probably a draw. We have a silly situation where both sides have 10 to 15 seconds for the rest of the game. Now black is actually possibly worse with the two bishops, but it's probably a draw. It's sort of silly that this game ended in a decisive result. But black is still worse. Knight f8. Threatening g6 check. White should play g6. And black is in a very, very tough spot, I would say. Tazik, what's up? He looks like he's sick or slick. Slick Panda. That's a slick Panda you have there. So allowing g6 check probably allows black to hang on. Oh no. And now we win a pawn. And now we might be winning the king and pawning game. Only white can possibly lose at this point with the outside pass pawn. Black is clearly better. See the evaluation. It's a loss. But it was a draw for a minute there. No? No. Lost. Yeah, so going into the endgame is a loss. No, I mean, clearly white shouldn't lose this. You could play like king e3 and it's a draw. Probably. King g4. Knight takes d4. Bishop e4. Forcing king f7. Okay, not an easy draw. With black up a pawn, but okay, I don't know who this player is, the power of the new. So I'm not gonna be able to accept their submissions until we figure out who they are in the future. Anyway, it was an interesting game. Black had no business winning this game. All right, now next, I've got Gligorich versus Planich, and Tezek, welcome back. Thanks for being a subscriber. I don't know if Mr. Slow's gonna make it for tonight. Thanks, Tezek had just resubscribed for two. Resubscribed. You resubscribed for 2 months in a row. I've never said resubscribed. I love the ambulances here. Missed that ambulance sound, really. Sun Prism, you sent this game last week. Yeah, Sun Prism. You don't think there was analysis one last week? Yeah, well, lichess was down for like 24 hours, so doing my analysis stream was a little difficult. I tried, but due to record downtime. All right, so let's go to these don't have to be in the order that I've got them in here. If you do Astrobate's game, for example, or Sun Prism's game, for example, they don't have to be in the order that I have them in the study. Shame on lichess. Yeah, really, shame on lichess. Shame on you guys for blaming it on me. Sac Draw was making me feel guilty. I should host 2 analysis streams this week according to Sac Draw. For my own benefit, of course. But all right. What do we got? I want to wait on the Planich game, and Nefedov has a tendency to come later. So we're gonna do. I'm gonna delete this. Delete them when I'm done with them. Delete. Sun Prism. You want to do yours? The unforeseen circumstances. So this is from. Yeah, this is from our tournament 2 weeks ago. The one thing I've noticed with Sun Prism is that Sun Prism has started to use his time better. It seemed like you were out of chess a little in the summer, which is understandable. But Sac Draw, there he is. He's here for our 1 analysis stream. 649. I think he's up to 1506.49. Thank you for the donation, sir. Sac Draw, feel free to submit a game if you'd like to. So Sun Prism has used his time better. I feel like your time use has been better, but your game has been really rusty. So keep doing what you're doing with the time, just play better. So here, e4, focus, and work on your game. e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, and then d4. And then black doesn't have a lot of options here, of course. d6 is very passive. So by default, pawn takes pawn is practically forced. And now, normally white recaptures playing the Scotch. There's a Scotch gambit. And then here we have the Goring. The boring Goring. No, the Goring is not so boring. You played this against me, and someone on Sound used to play it. And I like the Goring, but question is what should black do? Oh, you know what? The other day I was watching the Olympiad. I was watching the women's section, and the main line of this was on one of the boards I saw in the women's section. So you still see the occasional mainline Goring. This line with d5 too. Taking the pawn, though, it's a principled approach. I mean, it's hard to recommend, which one is better. I mean, generally speaking, gambit should be accepted. This is easier to play, but I guess objectively, pawn takes pawn um, would be the principal thing to do. So d5 is like a simpler option where you're not accepting the pawn. E takes d5, queen takes d5, and then white has to. I think that white has to take the pawn. No, is bishop e3 a move here? I've never seen anyone play that, but I imagine it's possible. That'd be funny. Someone did. There's one game with bishop to e3. The problem with that move is that the bishop, it's not a great square. You can play it, but it's just not a good square for the bishop. Bishop e2 would be better. You're probably going to have to play that no matter what. So pawn takes pawn, bishop g4, and then bishop e2. But we need to mention, what do we need to mention? Bishop e2, bishop e4 check. So normally bishop e4 check, knight c3, bishop takes f3, bishop takes f3, queen c4. This is the famous line that sort of it peters out. Some Prism and I had a draw in this, and I think if we're facing a gambit of dubious reputation, Black should be looking for more than a draw. I don't know how realistic Black's chances of playing for a win here are. This famously goes back to Mr. Slow's favorite Velimirovich, like Velimirovich Tau game is in the database, I believe. You played against me a couple of times. This bishop takes c6. I really don't like that move. I think you're supposed to play queen b3. This is definitely best. Takes, or maybe you played this and then took on c6, but I can't remember. But yeah, there's Velimirovich Tal. But I was thinking like maybe Black needs to try to find another way. So let's see this queenside castles. This is sharper, but it looks dangerous. Queenside castles, knight c3, and now queen a5. I mean, if Black wants to win, you're gonna have to play something else, because I think this is kind of a dead draw after bishop b4 check. Anyway, okay, so Richard did play castles queenside immediately, and okay, that's an attempt to play for more than a draw. So we're basically transposing after knight c3, bishop b4. So okay, Richard, the other line is a draw. This is you're trying for more, but at the same time, white white has winning chances. It's hard to believe this doesn't transpose to a Scandinavian. Gorachkina with the game 2018, very strong women's player. So castles, and now the question is where to put the queen. So almost everyone put the queen on a5. That doesn't mean it's right though. Taking is definitely not good. This would reinforce the central pawns, and in my opinion, white is clearly better here. We have an attack along the b file, we have two bishops, and our central pawn is secured. So it's just a question of where to move the queen. And it looks like, everything's possible. No one played this, but every other move's been tried. I'd imagine even queen f5. Even queen f5 needs to be considered. h3, bishop f3. This move has never been played. It's similar to queen h5. Queen d7, obviously. That's what Gorachkina played, and Hazandraglu. That was an old game, though, for 2001. So it looks like queen d7 is pretty safe, and that looks like a solid option. So this is risky. With this move, we have ideas to sacrifice the bishop in some positions, and ideas of bishop back to d6 to attack h2. Guys, see in the opening explorer, someone played bishop e3. It's like a standard knight f3. It looks like a standard knight f3 Scandinavian type position. But I mean, when it comes down to this type of thing, how are we going to make sure our h2 is protected? Is this going to be a problem? So basically, what often happens is something like takes knight g5. There you would have, but there you would have bishop g4. No, you would be checked. What am I talking about? That would be checked. Yeah, so this knight g5 is an issue. It wins. So in the game, in the opening explorer, black played knight f6 now. But Sun Prism played bishop f4. Preemptive. Very, very good looking move. That's a nice looking move you got there. Bishop f4, preemptively protecting h2. So naturally Richard plays bishop d6, undermining said protection here, which makes a lot of sense. This looks absolutely correct. And now Sun Prism needs to seriously consider the implications of going here. It's like a London where there's tension with the bishops, or the Italian game, or whatever. Bishop here, and if bishop takes, take with the pawn. Oftentimes it's difficult to judge if this is safer or more dangerous. You gotta watch this, mating attacks, knight h4. I mean, so you need to seriously consider this move. And obviously it would be possible to take with the f-pawn as well. But it's difficult to judge. I don't like this move because you're activating his rook for him. That's not generally a good idea. On the other hand, you have a knight transfer with knight e4, so you might have something concrete. That's what happened. So Sun Prism goes with the concrete idea, knight e4, and that's often a problem for the queen on h5. So at this point, maybe black is already in trouble with the strat. I'm also considering like rook g6, but it doesn't look like black has any sort of attack after knight g3. Yeah, exactly. No. I mean, if this is as strong as it looks, maybe Richard has to take with the pawn. I mean, if you're gonna just straight up lose a tempo with that rook getting attacked, pawn takes pawn is not that bad. I mean, rook c1, you got a cubby hole over here. You can play king b8 and get out of the way. Obviously, it's not as desirable, but if this is just going to be a straight up loss of time, we're in trouble. Let's see. Apparently, black's okay, but he should play the move I talked about. Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's counterintuitive. The plan all along is usually to put the rook on h6, something like that, and you have to like change your plan now. I was thinking that knight g3. Was fine for white, but maybe I can take here because you have traps. Does this work? No. Well, I guess it's just not that big a deal. Okay, your knights are kind of passive here. This isn't scary. So this was huge. Richard should have played rook g6. You got to be able to change your plan on the fly when the opponent is throwing some good ideas at you. he just like blindly went with the original plan, and I think it's maybe not as good here. And now queen d5. Clearly, this is reasonable. Blockading the pawn. But now that queen could be attacked. Obviously, rook c1, rook c5 here. And then, yeah, I mean, I don't care about this pawn. The pawn can go to hell. I don't care. You know, that's... Asterbate just tipped 27.89. He made it 15.34.38. We're up to 15.34.38. Sun Prism not afraid to sack his A pawn. The enemy. Asterbate's going off. Tier 1 sub to Marius BC. Or Marius, yeah, Marius BC. You started to get too creative. Well, I don't think this is too creative. I think this is an absolutely standard move. And now, maybe you got more creative later, but Richard cannot afford to spend more time moving the same pieces twice. First of all, he needs to seriously consider snapping the central pawn. So bishop takes, queen takes. But I mean, bishop takes here, queen takes d1, bishop takes b7, check, king takes, rook takes d1, and white is clearly better. But I think that black might be able to hold on. I don't know. Not ideal for black. But what's he supposed to do? At least develop your pieces. So I guess here. Knight e7, making way for the rook. On rook c5, we have queen d6. Or possibly grabbing the pawn. I mean, this just to get out of the way. But you need to develop. This is very slow. I get it. He's focusing on h2. A little bit of like acerbate going on there. You starting to get too creative. Well, black's getting too creative. Focusing on the mating cheapo there. But you got the Rock of Gibraltar on g3, so you're not going to checkmate him unless that knight can move. And you can't force white to move his knight. So this is unrealistic. You know, it's like hope chess. But now you got too creative. Black just played a move that's like inherently a cheapo or hope chess, and you should just fundamentally focus on principles. Black, king in the middle of the board, more exposed than yours, and the first move you should look at is d5. And if not d5, then some sort of productive developing move. Obviously, this is an option. Rook e1 is an option. It develops a piece. And maybe some type of moves like b4. You have to look at moves like knight e5. Moves not involving moving the g3 knight, obviously. But yeah, this is very creative. Well, it's either good or it's not. You know, this is a concrete move. It's not really about creative. It's about like it's either good or not. Does it work tactically? If queen takes c6, knight e5. If queen takes c6, knight e5, bishop takes e2, knight takes c6, bishop takes d1, knight takes a7, check, king b8. No, is that what you want? Black can also take with the b pawn, but obviously there, this is what you're banking on. And black would have to move the king toward the center. So probably there's a lot of danger. Clearly king d7 is bad. He has to go here, and now this is very weak. So it looks like queen takes is forced. Now you just like, you know, blitz the obvious move. But this looks like you're exchanging all the pieces. You sack the exchange, and then you traded a bunch of pieces, hoping for a fork. You got plenty of time. You also have d5. This is the problem now. Are you going to go into this endgame? No, this is no good, right? You have to take back on e2. This isn't. I don't think this is anything. That's just losing. So you have to take back, and you sacked an exchange. And what's your idea? Queen g4, mate through the knight. Queen g4, our only main idea. Black has queen e6. That's what he played. And you've got a decoy. But do you have anything else here? You need the rook in. So d5. And now, how does this work? So if queen takes d5, rook d1 is really strong. So I think that Richard does a good job, but the nice thing is that d6, if you try to go Nesbedinov here or whatever, beauty of black's position is he can take with the rook. The pawn isn't going through. Black doesn't have to take with the pawn, disrupting his king safety. So that doesn't do anything. We do have this though. So does black have an alternate defense here? Oh, sorry guys. So we were at this position, takes here, 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 check. So this looks like a problem. Check. King d8 is very dangerous. So why not king b8? Apparently queen takes d5 only move. So why is black lost here? Because of what? Queen takes g7? Okay. So he underestimated queen takes g7 from the defensive aspect. But I blame Richard for not developing his pieces. He shouldn't have played queen d6. But he also sharpened the play with the sharp castle's queenside. So it's, he asked for this kind of game. He saw the check, he saw d7 check, but he underestimated queen takes g7, and I did too. But this looks dangerous as well, obviously. This looks really dangerous. I mean, okay, here you have obviously queen e6 check. This is still somewhat problematic, obviously. Queen, what are you going to do? So I still don't like black's position. Looks like after d5 you're in command. Here, 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 and then f5. Does that change anything with the situation there? Or should we just play king b8? Queen g7's winning. So I don't think this is going to save him. f5. That's the point. What's the difference that f5 provides? f5 doesn't really change much. Knight f6. Oh. So you could simply take here, and that's probably what he expected. But instead you brought your other knight in. And there's some nasty mates. Queen h5, queen takes h8. Oof. So now black played a really crazy move. Rook takes h2. With the idea of queen h5 and queen takes f5, that's not going to work. So queen takes e5, I would assume, must be played. Yeah, this is the only option. Queen takes e5, queen h8 check, and then queen e8. And white's up 2 pawns in an endgame. But anyway, rook h2, king h2, check, king g1, g8. And now black resigned. Uncharacteristically for Richard, not a big resigner. But I have 97 check, for example. That looks pretty strong. I think that Richard really, we gotta blame this on this move played preemptively. I would say you also have to consider queen a5, and there's rook g6, like I said. But the last mistake, I think, is here. You don't have time for this move. Rook g6 was the best move earlier. We talked about that, second draw. But I think this is the key moment. Like, you just don't have time to do this right now. You have to complete your development. There's no option. I think you should go here. And black, how bad is black's position? He's only a tiny bit worse. Is that the best move? I never know whether to play knight f6 or knight e7, but this also protects c6. It also leaves this rook open. It seems better to play knight e7. It is. Yeah, so that's the key. He meant a different position. But anyway, yeah, there was a neat move he had. After knight e4, he should have played rook g6 instead, focusing on a different square. All right. That's done. Now, Asterbate. Mr. Slow's still not in the house yet. We've got waifu. What is that? Wi-Fi cat? Wall 2 cat, not waifu cat. Wall 2 cat. All right. Yeah, Ponda looks kind of yellow. No, he's feeling all right. You're right, buddy? Hey. All right, no, sorry. So we're saving Mr. Slow's game. We got Asterbate. All right. Always entertaining to do an Asterbate game. And then I'm going to have a beer. So now we're going to do, you guys can see the list. Those are the games that we're going to do. You guys can't see the list. Huh. It's under my picture. So we're going to do Asterbate. And then the rest of the games include Planinch, Nefedov, Uber Driver, Schumacher, and my game. I have a really entertaining submission that I played in Blitz yesterday. We can always do my game for a little bit of light reading. The Kraken, I call it. All right, so this is Asterbate. Black, d4, knight f6. So one thing we can do, if you're playing black, Asterbate and everyone who plays the Indian defense, if you happen to encounter opponents who play either, the London or the Jabava London or the Verisov, one thing you can do, and I've experimented with pretty much everything here, is play d6 and transpose to a Kraken. After d6 is a good move against these London type of things anyway. But most people will play e4, and then you can surprise them with the Kraken. Nefedov will play a4, but we'll save this for later. Okay. But anyway, it's an option against the Verisov to play 2d6 if you play the Kraken. But Asterbate did something I told him not to do, I believe. Still, it's not too bad. c5. But you're going to have to play, I'm going to recommend you to play g6, Asterbate. Don't do e6. You did it again. You're like Britney Spears. D5. Been here, done this before, man. And I don't know if I love this. It's a reverse. Well, it's an old Benoni, Schmid Benoni, basically. You don't really play the Schmid Benoni. That's the problem. His knight's on c3, not the pawn on c4. So he's going to play with e4. So Asterbate, I'm going to recommend you to play either d6 or g6 in this position. And if you do play g6 and he plays e4, you have to play usually d6. I think that's the best you can do under the circumstances here. You know, now that you've got yourself in this situation, you can't try to play the modern Benoni. You shouldn't try to play the modern Benoni against knight c3. And that's the moral of the story. So this isn't really a viable variation. How many times have you lost a piece with this type of thing? E4, pawn takes pawn, e5. Okay, not necessarily lost a piece, but like got a horrible position. Black just has a horrible position. If queen e7, queen e2, and Asterbate has had this happen in the past already. This is a total disaster. So do not play e6. And if you do, I guess after e4, your only option now is to play d6. But these variations are very strange, like check. Suat Adalik, my friend, winning with white. This is pleasant for white. Black's position is very strange. Totervin, an old game for 2006. All right. So Asterbate, just play g6 next time. This is bad, but this is bad. I don't think bishop g5 is all that great, you know. Let's watch the engine. All right. It's surprising that a player of Bosiocic's standard is playing the stupid bishop g5 move. But honestly, watch the evaluation drop. At this point, white is better by 0.7 if he plays e4. 0.5 if he plays knight f3. But we play bishop g5. It's like chopped down to 0.2 because this move is so ineffective. It doesn't do anything. You know, it just looks active. So it doesn't make sense. Very bad move. And it's surprising how good white's score is here, despite the fact that bishop g5 is not a great move. So once white plays that move, you're okay again. And you should play d6, developing, preparing for like bishop e7, and your position is okay. In fact, with bishop on g5, white should probably consider playing like e3. I'm not sure. Maybe they should consider moving their bishop again. e4, bishop e7, bishop f4, something like that. Yeah. There's a Ray Robson game here with black. But bishop g5, h6, this is more provocative, Asterbate. And that's not a good idea. His bishop's not on a good square, and it can go back to f4 where it's probably better placed. See Carlos Rossi here? Carlo Rossi? Carlos? Carlo Rossi? If the bishop is ineffective, then don't chase it away. Would be my advice to you. You should play d6 and follow up with bishop e7 as soon as possible. h6 is a huge mistake. Your opponent isn't subtle enough to understand that bishop f4 is a very strong move. That's where the bishop would be better placed in the first place, not to promote exchanges on the h4 d8 diagonal and tactical tricks and whatnot. You're forcing him to make a good move, but he plays this, which Bociocic played, but honestly, it's probably better to do bishop takes f6 than bishop h4, which doesn't help. Just staying on the stupid diagonal. But I think this is the best move of all. So here, giving up the bishop, and now, obviously you have to consider the possibility of taking with the pawn, but I think it's a bit much. So queen takes, and now Croatian grandmaster played. Funny, I don't remember seeing Bociocic on the list. Kozul was playing. Kozul's like 60 something, and he's playing board 4. He's still on the Olympic team for Croatia. It's unbelievable. It's just amazing. So Bociocic here played e4. Your position's okay, but this snake Benoni here might be going too far. Hello everyone. So, I would actually consider even possibly g5. But the safest looking move is obviously d6. a6, stopping knight b5. Looks like the #1 move. And Asterbe played this provocative move, which is fine, except for the fact that he has this. Now you have an interesting possibility, bishop e5, but yeah, the square would fall. So if he does pawn takes pawn, you have to take with the queen. And that is a massive hole here. And I like white, but you're still alive. He plays this, probably not the most accurate move. We're analyzing subscriber games here, Marcel. So submitted games from the subscribers. Bishop c4. This doesn't make any sense whatsoever. If you wanted to do that, you should have done it in the first place. Now your bishop has a pretty good diagonal here. If anything, you should be considering playing bishop e5. This is a snake Benoni motif, right? Bishop e5, 92. So playing this to me doesn't make sense. You played e6 in one move, you played e5 in one move, you played bishop d6, now you're blocking your bishop. Your bishop might or might not be able to get back here to a5. It loses a lot of time. You're just going one move to the next without a plan and changing your plan every move. Mr. Late, tip 1562. Take us up to 1550. So a solid $50 today. Thanks to Mr. Late, Mr. Asterbait, and Mr. Sack Draw. Mr. Late, I'm going to celebrate with a beer in a minute. So knight f3, knight a6, oof. Back to the check Benoni, a3, knight c7, castles. Should we get like a burial for this thing? Should we have some kind of funeral service for it? Or, I mean, bro, that's a big pawn you got there, Asterbate. That's what happens when you don't, you don't plan your moves in advance. Now a6. And now white just had some kind of brain hemorrhage or something. It's really crazy. White has played very, very reasonable chess so far this game, but the following move, I would say this is like literally the worst thing he could do. B4. Black's biggest problem is the devastated bishop that can't move on d6. So what does white do? I mean, he might as well play like knight takes c5. You know, it's like you're sitting there, you're like, okay, what's the best possible thing I can do to help that bishop on d6? Well, objectively, yeah, I think it's probably knight takes c5, losing a knight and like opening this diagonal. But the second best is this, d4. All I can say, Asterbait, is that I think your opponent probably made a mouse slip. My guess, and I think it's a well-educated guess, is that he meant to play a4 and stop b5, but he accidentally clicked on the b4 square. The only thing that makes sense, the only logical explanation, in my opinion, he clicked b4 by accident, and he's like, "Oops!" And now I think you should take it, liberating your bishop. Most importantly, now he has some funky ideas, like here, but it's not a big deal. And you b5, knight b6, rook b8. No, I don't think you can find a case that b4 was his intention, but not taking it. You know, I need to see why you're not taking that pawn. The problem is after this he has time to play pawn takes c5. At least he's not losing a pawn. After this move, your bishop gets free, and you have a pretty good position. I'm still on the fence about this. Do the d6, maybe liberating the square d5 for the white pieces. So I think it's inaccurate. You know, you play too quickly. Actually, you use some time here. But you should take on b4 first. Why not? Because when he takes, you're taking, your queen is protecting b6. You're attacking his knight with tempo. There's nothing that white can do, literally. And you're just a pawn up now. But you played b5, and then he just ignored it with this horrible move. And now there's a legit case here. There's a legit case here for this. But again, I think it's simpler to take the pawn, man. Take the pawn, get your bishop to this diagonal, and you're winning. You made the situation very complicated with c4. But ultimately, white can break out to some degree. I mean, it's going to take you a while to get your bishop back here, get it to this diagonal. Meanwhile, like, how do you sort out your knight here? I mean, your knight is going to have to go to e8 and then to another square. It's a nightmare, literally. So the guy plays a4. Unbelievable. You know, b4 seems plausible. Yeah, but the rest of the game is like perfect, and it's just exactly the moment when one would play a4. And the likelihood of a mouse slip happening, the square adjacent to a4, you know, Sexec draw? It's adjacent to a4. It's like he clicked the a pawn, you know, thinking he clicked the a pawn and clicked the wrong square or something. I'm just saying, it's likely. Pieces on d6 and c7 look awful. No, he has to he has to get the bishop to this diagonal and then replace his knight. But this is crazy. He drops b4 anyway. My God. And now white is just completely lost. This is a good move, but it's probably not necessary. But anyway, good move. d6, you're going to have to play it eventually. Here, bishop c5, and then you're winning. Totally winning. And like, who has the bad bishop now? It's so ironic, right? This is a monster. This is great. Now he's the one with the bad bishop. g5, g4 incoming. Well, you might not want to give up the f5 square. Provoking. Wow. You believe how this position is like gone from a nightmare to like the perfect game? Look at this. 98. Boom. That was the plan all along. Bring it over to the king side. You know, I was thinking recently, like I was handicapped by being self-taught, and it's taken me my whole life to like reteach myself how to play chess. I had a lot of bad habits. Acerbate's kind of the same. You know, he's a genius, but he didn't have proper training in the beginning, and so now you know we're starting to see. Imagine how strong Acerbate would have been. He creates a position like this. Now, I'm afraid we should just go back. But I think this is good too. This is very creative, you know. Takes, knight f3, bishop takes f2, check. Rook takes, queen takes, check. Good enough. Beautiful. So the point is, if takes, knight takes g4. Threatening mate. This is the only move, more or less. And now we have bishop takes f2, check. He has to take it. We take with the queen with check, king h1, and now black has a number of ways to win. I guess the simplest of which is knight e3, winning a clear knight after queen g1, queen takes e2. But anyway, beautiful finish by Acerbate there. Knight f6, nice. And then, yeah, well, this is suicide. Takes, takes, and takes. And now, well, if nothing else, you can play queen takes f3. White is basically in Zhuang. And he loses the knight. And rook a1 as well, move 11. Yeah, this rook nicely came into the game. Had it all the way. He had it all the way. Very beautiful. Great game, Acerbate. Very, very beautiful. Rook on a1 even stronger than taking the piece. I'm not going to argue with you guys. Bagsy. Bagsy's, oh my god. Wow, it's 3 pages of analysis. It's Robert Hubner. Robert Hubner analysis. You're going to make the website like malfunction with that. Jeez. Copy. Learn. Add a new chapter. That's some intense computer analysis you got there. All right. So, Mr. Late is here. Great game, Acerbate. All right, guys, we're going to see now the legendary Gligorich facing Mr. Late's study hero, the late Planage. Actually, Gligorich is late as well. Mr. Late is not really late. Not yet, anyway. So, and with that, I'm going to open a beer. I'm losing my voice here. We have a little cold, but nothing too serious. All right. So, guys, analysis stream, thank you for your support. Despite the fact we have no viewers, we have quality viewers. Few viewers, but they're quality viewers. Yeah, I didn't have any beer in the house. Went for a walk today. I had to buy some bottled water and I decided to buy a couple beers. I drank orange Penta, like don't know, something gave me acid indigestion. I'm not sure what it might have been the palinka I drank. A little glass of palinka last night. He only lost to Planich in this tournament. Oh, he lost this game. Normally, we're never seeing losses. So Planich losing, but let's forget about the spoilers for a moment. But no disgrace losing to Gligoric, who was like the godfather of Yugoslavian chess. Right, exactly. Exact draw. Yeah, I don't remember how. I mean, Gligoric was alive for a long time. I don't know when he passed away. I don't remember, but not that long ago. Anyway, he made it. He probably made it to 2000. I'm not sure. So d4, knight f6, c4, c5. What's with the by the way, like what's with the Yugoslavs and the Benoni? You know, it's just a coincidence, like Mr. Slow. It's just you like the Benoni, so you follow all these players who play the Benoni, or did like everyone in Serbia play the Benoni? I talked about the later Hungarian influence of well, I mean there was Tal, that was later though. Like Tal Fischer was 72. I guess the Benoni was just popular. The Benoni was trendy. Think about it. Fischer played the Benoni. Tal played the Benoni. The Benoni's a macho opening. It's very aggressive. If you think about it, it's one of the most aggressive things that black can play. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess the 60s and 70s was its peak. You know, before like the final Reykjavik match with Fischer. You know, you don't see the Benoni like really getting out of the 80s in good condition. Basically, it really took a hit in the 80s, and it never recovered. It's like a cult opening now. So d5, e6, knight c3, e takes d5. I'm not an expert, but there are other move orders you can play with d6 and g6. I'm not sure. Sometimes people will be like sissies and play knight takes d5. I hate that. That's stupid. My friend Pereni Bela was what I was talking about. Pereni Bela is not my friend. Pereni Bela died in 1988 or 89, but he had a following, the Hungarian international master Pereni Bela, and I've recommended this idea to some of my friends because I got it from Pereni Bela friend. This is an interesting idea. Sometimes you can do bishop e7 and hope they take here, which somewhat like enables black to develop. It's a reasonable try, an alternative to the standard sort of knight takes d5. Anyway, here, I mean, knight takes d5 isn't great for white, but you will occasionally encounter it. g6, knight f3. So this is like the classical move, right? Knight f3. I just want to check something. Need my glasses. Mm-hmm. All right. Last checking. I can't really see. All right. Reading my beer. Anyway. So, bishop g7. With the knight on f3, white usually well, honestly, if you're going to play h3, we would usually see bishop d3 first, followed by h3. This move order allows bishop g4, right? And people have different feelings about that kind of stuff, but um, some players don't mind it. White can play h3 here, but there's something about this move order I'm not sure about, because castles and then bishop d3. Well, we're back into a main line. All right, yeah, it's okay. You can play h3. Black shouldn't do bishop g4 too early, because there's some funky moves like this. So that's unusual. But after bishop g7, bishop e2, there are some players who will go a6, hoping for a4, and then doing bishop g4. Sorry, guys. So castle, and now castles, and now bishop g4 is a very typical line. I don't know, though, what the status of it is. I mean, some players will do like h3 and they're happy to get the two bishops, whereas some players will go for stuff like knight d2, allow this exchange of light square bishops because it's kind of a bad bishop. Difficult to say, but I guess this is a very standard plan. h3, bishop takes f3, bishop takes f3, knight on bd7. We're playing for e5. This is the standard way to play it for black. Instead of castles, white should have played taking the opportunity. Well, should have sack draw. Really? I don't think that anybody can like definitively say that. I mean, this is a main variation. Yeah. This is a main variation. I'm not certain it's better. It's another variation. It has the best statistical score. But I mean, why do only 133 games feature knight d2 while 834 feature knight f3? I'm sorry, castles, I just want to say that I think these plans are easy to play, but I remember like Farago Ivan, Hungarian grandmaster, very solid Hungarian grandmaster, Farago Ivan. He had no qualms. He had absolutely no qualms playing this with white. He would just take the two bishops. I don't care, Um, and then you've got to ask the question. So this is so great. Why did Planinic not play bishop g4? It also trades pieces. I think that's what I'm saying. Move 11. It's possible that bishop g4 is overrated, or it's possible that bishop g4 is actually a good way to like play for a draw, or try to equalize, but may not be the best way for black to play for a win either. So rook e8 is maybe more dynamic. Now white plays knight d2. But nobody exchanged any pieces. I only played this position like once in my life, and I lost to Christian Sabo. I think I did like b6. If I remember correctly, or Sabo Christian. I played b6. He played a4, and I played like bishop a6, trying to trade pieces. But white's like still better here after bishop b5, probably. But I normally don't play the Benoni. It was a modern defense move order, I think, and I transposed into a modern Benoni. Knight d2, and now knight a6. So this is a highly hyper modern way of playing. Don't forget that white is Gligorich. With knight a6, Our plan is to use the knight back to c7 and support b5, but it's pretty slow. White plays f3, securing the e4 pawn. You can see here king h1 is also played. You versus Rapport 2023. See, just living in Serbia for a few years, next thing you know, Rapport's playing the Benoni. All right. You marry a Serbian woman, you end up playing the Benoni. So f3, Gary Carlson, knight c7. Don't try this at home unless you have experience. Now a4. You know what this is? It's not only a Benoni, it's a Redi in reverse. It's not easy to play either side of this position, accurately unless you really know what you're doing. b6, and now knight c4, and now bishop a6. Slaggy idea. Bishop g5, queen d7. So this is like a Larson thing. Look, Portish even played it. Wow. Getting out of the pin. And what about like trading on c4? Yuri Carlson. I mean, that's interesting. So black not only drew, he went on to win. Gary Carlson. I guarantee white is better here. 0.6. That doesn't matter. At the end of the day, understanding the position is more important than the evaluation. It looks like bishop takes c4. Is safer, but again, we have a player who doesn't like to trade pieces. The danger might be that, like, do you want to exchange for the knight, or do you want to trade the bad bishop off? Now queen d2. He still refuses to trade. You can see there's 16 games here with bishop takes c4. Dlugi versus Defermian. Kiriz Bobatsov, 1971. This game was played in 1969. Belyavsky, 1979. That's much later. This is the earliest example. I'm sure there's other games that are not in the database now. Rook b8, and now white plays b3. See, the problem is, like, you can't play b5 without shattering your structure, or maybe just losing the a7 pawn outright. So what are we doing here? We're gonna have to take on c4 at some point and play a6 and b5. So I think, it's more like logical to do this. Play a6 and play for b5. Now queen d3. And so the problem is black's tied down to this. It's not easy to execute b5. You can't play b5. He plays rook b8, b3, and now knight h5. It's interesting that Nanu played Romanian. Nanu played knight h5, same as the game. No, Nanu didn't. Nanu played bishop c8. Oh my god. Nanu got the bishop off of a6 so he could play for a6 and b5. Against the very strong, Croatian Grandmaster Hulak passed away. But the plan. Even if black can get in this plan, Larson used to play like this with white even. There's this move, the Hulak attacking a7, and now knight takes b5. What? A takes b5 and knight h5. Okay, you can't take the pawn. I mean, to me, it looks like white is better. Plus 1.4. And he ends up beating Hulak with black. And what happens here? Knight h5, rook a2, bishop d4 check, king h1, and now f6, bishop e3. Hulak was better all the way. But none is tricky. Okay. Anyway, game continuation, rook b8, b3, knight h5, similar. And we're following Klus versus Kramling, 1987. It's interesting that Pia Kramling has been like the same rating for like 40 years. Very consistent. G4. That's risky. Notice that Hulak didn't opt for G4 against the tricky Nanu. But this is a fearless veteran. G4. Now bishop d4 check, which what does that do? Free up g7 for the knight here, and knight g7. That's not great. But g4 weakens white's kingside a lot, so not everybody wants to play like that way. And now Ligorich just voluntarily trades off dark square bishop. Bishop e3. What about knight e3? He doesn't want to trade that. If knight takes e3, black conceivably might be able to play for f5, but it looks dangerous to me. Looks like white's better here. I mean, the pawn structure from hell, man. Anytime the pawn chain from hell, I should say, anytime that's you got this Benoni structure and you can't break it. I don't have f5. This is too dangerous with a g file probably. And b5's kind of anti-positional. So computer's best line is bishop takes, knight takes, b5, a takes b5, rook takes b5. But still, the pawn chain from hell stays intact. And white stays on top in that line as well. So he takes with the queen. What's the idea here? Besides allowing black tricks like f5. If f5, that's what he played. Okay, BFD. I could take like this and take back with a knight, but still white would be better. I think that white is still better. This is now reduced to that, but it's still extremely strong. So he plays f5. Ligorich just doesn't care. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely play pawn takes f5. I mean, g takes f5. By playing queen g5, though, I think he has something subtle in mind, and I don't really get it. So this move, okay, what is white doing after pawn takes pawn? My problem is really that I don't like the big chain getting racked. Queen g5 allows f takes g. What's the problem here? Is there some sort of crazy strong move that I'm missing? Like, what does white do? Trade queens? Trade queens, decoying away defense of d6, right? But still, takes. Here, what's the big deal? This pawn becomes a target. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe that pawn holds. Just humor me here for a second. If rook f6, how does black defend this pawn? Well, he has to take. And this knight looks bad, but I guess he can survive. He has control of this square. And now here, followed by like knight e8, or maybe the other knight to e8. Black's passive, but he's hanging on. So I thought that's what would happen. You play f5 to break the pawn chain. White goes queen g5. Now he takes. Okay, fine. Grigorich takes with the pawn. I was expecting him to take with the bishop, to be honest. There's some tactics here. But okay, pawn takes strengthens the chain again. So this bad bishop is better than a knight. These knights are really, really sad. Those knights are dreaming of being on like d4 and e5. Black plays rook f8. Now he takes. Black recaptures. And now rook g1. And then someone's talked about that. Saxite Draw said rook g1 before. But I mean, this is the reason why I would play g takes f earlier. I don't know why. I don't really understand why white didn't play. I don't see the downside of not playing gf, because it allowed black the chance to take on g4. I want to check that. You know, he plays queen g5. My question is, why not take on g4? Computer doesn't like it, but let's say the line I gave. Okay, b takes and g takes f4. Oh no. So this is really like defensible. This is defensible. The line that I gave. But this is really something. This seems to be the problem. We have this giant. And then the bishop backing it up there. And it's not like black can play h5. Wow. So taking on g4 is not as good because of f4. And if this move is way better. There's no bishop backing that up. He could still play f4 though. Anyways, all right. I just want to understand this. So why black didn't take on g4? Takes here, 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 and now we're all expecting king h8. Black's knights are bad. This knight has no outposts. This knight, the knights are just sad. Here, rook g3, triple up, plus the idea of rook h3, and now f4, dark square blockade. We got this square, rook g4, if rook e5, rook queen h4. So this is funny now. Uncharacteristic play for black. We're all expecting rook h5. Okay, he has queen h6 there, actually. But even in the case of this move, so this move controls f6. Now you have two pieces controlling f6. If queen h6, now we can chase the queen away or offer an exchange of queens, force an exchange of queens with like queen f6. So the queen's not doing anything on d7. He has to offer trade of queens and then trade queens, but black is groveling now. Imagine if this bishop goes f1 to h3. Damn, dude. Or even like a5, bishop d1, bishop a4, bishop c6. This is why bishops are better than knights. Those knights are really, really sad, man. That's what I'm talking about. That knight, the knight is just totally dominated. The knight on g7. Oof. And this is just game over. Yeah, he should have played bishop g4 in the opening. I don't like this line either. I mean, I think that if you're like an expert, maybe it's okay, but black is strategically busted now. So knight e4 and ideas of d6. You can't take with the rook, obviously. If you take with the pawn, you get knight e4. Well, it's not going to be pretty. Next d6. So he desperately plays rook h6, attacking the bishop, which is fortunate. And now pawn takes pawn. And then it looks like black is forced to recapture. Knight e4, tempo. And now he has to lose the exchange. Because this is going to be happening, forking the pieces. Black is lost. Now, can black hang on here? No. No freaking way. If only white could play like rook f4 check or rook f5 check. This is terrible. Oof. Yeah, it's lost. Gligorich being Gligorich. Easy win. Just gives up. He just gives up the exchange for a winning king and pawning game now. Instructive. Pragmatic. Zugzwang. All right, guys, good game. Thanks, Mr. Slow. Sorry to see your Benoni hero lose, but thanks for submitting a loss. The only game he lost in that tournament. Planich, that was. All right, we got Astrobate done, out of the way. Delete chapter. Gligorich out of the way. Delete chapter. Thanks, guys, for supporting the stream. Pavel Nepudov or Uber driver? Do I hear Uber driver? Pavel Nepudov? Pavel's been quiet lately. Aspie says Nepudov. All right, McNutty. You gotta be careful when you're playing someone named McNutty. I had a babysitter named Mrs. McNutt when I was a little kid in like first grade. She used to make me watch Woody Woodpecker and Popeye. These old cartoons. E4, E6. He may never be here, Aspie. You want to wait and do Uber driver? All right. He's not here. How do we know if he's here or not, Asterbate? So what do we have here? A study by Uber driver? A multi-chapter study. That's going to be, you have to be like tier 3 subscriber Uber driver to submit a multi-chapter study. Or join my future Patreon. I have a Patreon account, but I didn't finish it yet. Ah, look at the list. They're all short. So watch this. Don't take anything Uber driver says like too literally, okay? He's very dogmatic. E4, E5, knight F3, knight C6. Okay. We're looking at this from white side or black? Knight C6 is already a mistake. Later in the Royal Lopez, black will do cartwheels to maneuver this knight to D7. Later. Using later twice. Bad grammar. Or in the two knights, white kicks the knight with E takes D5. Ah. Oh, Uber driver's point is that he's claiming knight C6 is a mistake because the knight has to move again later. Very deep. So on knight C6, bishop C4, knight F6, knight G5, D5, he takes D5. It has bite to it in this line. Bite. So knight A5. Better to lose a tempo instead. This is Uber driver's future blog, I guess. So E4, E5, knight F3, D6. So his argument is that D6 is better than knight C6. Better to have no space. Played the Kraken. Notice he's not talking about white's best move, D4. Does anyone notice that? Coincidence? Okay, maybe we'll see that later. So, D6, bishop C4, knight F6, and then now white makes the dubious decision to play knight G5. Uber driver has a theory that D6 is better than knight C6, and then he puts forward some sort of disinformation to try to like confirm his theory. And this is part of the disinformation. Knight G5 is known as a bad move. D5, and now E takes D5. E takes D5 is toothless. Well, it's also like white's only move. Black is an improved elephant gambit. You didn't mention the fact that knight G5 sucks. All right. So Carlsen Philidor. Oh, okay. So he was excited that Carlsen played the Philidor. But honestly, Carlsen could beat Valentin Dragnev in like the Owen defense or any opening. So it doesn't really matter. All the players from Austria are all overrated by like 75 points. Okay, first of all. So if you're a 2600 Austrian Grandmaster, your actual strength is like 25-25. And secondly, because wealthy countries, we have rating poverty here where everyone's underrated. In India, everyone's underrated. In like Austria and Switzerland, everyone's overrated. All right. So Dragnev, Carlsen. Anyway, E4, D6, D4, knight F6. Magnus's biggest mistake here is, of course, not playing the Kraken with A6. This is obviously black's best move, as confirmed by me, and you'll see later. I have an interesting game to show you guys. Dragnev facing the alternative E5, and now, Dragnev plays knight F3. I had this in the World Senior. You know what I played here? Knight on G to E2. Giving white some different options. Uber driver. But Dragna plays the normal knight f3. Black plays knight on bd7. And so Dragnev won. The Dragnev lost in a white side of a Philidor. Embarrassing, but you're playing Magnus, you know? So that really proves a lot. And now we see the ultimate proof. Uber Driver plays a 2197, and the guy, you know, he does the takes. This is like white's worst move in this position. I mean, I guess the worst move is bishop f4, honestly. After bishop f4, pawn takes. No, I was wrong. Queen h5. Maybe queen g4 is worse than pawn takes pawn. What else is bad? You know, queen f3, like dropping this pawn with tempo. So aside from the moves that just lose material by force, this is probably white's worst move, because white trades off his own central pawn just to trade queens and take away black's right to castle. But of course, this is a very bad variation that doesn't promise white almost any advantage. So white should not play pawn takes pawn, obviously. He should play either knight f3 or knight on g to e2. And actually, now that you mention it, this move order does raise the possibility of f4. So f4, pawn takes d4, queen takes d4. Now, knight c6 can be met by bishop b5 or other moves. That's an interesting and aggressive alternative for white. Johnny Hector versus Danielson. But anyway, we have the lifeless pawn takes pawn. And I think I had a game where someone played a3 here, preventing bishop b4. I wouldn't be surprised if that was like white's best move. No, bishop c4 is best. Okay. Bishop c4. And then I was under the impression this is probably the usual. But Uber Driver does bishop b4. So this loses time. Is that a draw or something? Leading to a likely equal position. But still, protects the structure. What? Now you didn't play knight takes c4, falling for that worse structure trick. You played king e7. Okay. And now you get a really bad move. But obviously this game in question is probably the best try. a3, you have to do something about the bishop. So bishop a5, b4. I'm not sure b4 is even good. Bishop b6, and then knight d5 check. And now knight d5. Position is equal. It's not easy to say which way white should recapture, but bishop takes loses the tempo to this. So apparently this is better, but black would remain with a better structure here, although this open line looks a little bit dangerous. But here we go again with the bishop g5, I think overrated. But I guess if white can get in f4, I would be a little bit nervous that white could achieve f4 somehow and ultimately undermine our center. But I suppose that you can keep that under control. So c6. You know, I should mention that I looked at some lines in the past where the king actually goes to f6. Here you also have the pawn. But you could even play this and then recapture, you know, actually either way, with the pawn or with the king. Maybe pawn takes is safer. But winning is going to be another matter altogether. And it's usually not going to happen. But I don't think that bishop g5 is good. c6. And now a3. I mean, okay, it gives the bishop a retreat square, but I'm not sure that even benefits us with white. I guess mainly he wants to get the bishop off the knight, but I mean, why a3 is even necessary? And then a big mistake. This is how Nefedov lost against me in one of these old Indian endgames. It's always riskier to castle queenside. Probably safer to castle kingside. Not so bad here, though. So, Uber Driver equalizes. He almost equalized. It should be 6. It should be 6. What about pawn takes? Because with pawn takes, you have another e-pawn. So the idea is that if you do this and white plays f4, it's really no sweat because you got another one to take its place. I guess there would be a problem here, though. You're going to lose a piece. So that is an issue. So pawn takes, you have to play f4, h6, only move. And then if bishop h4, what do we do? You'll have to start sweating bullets. I guess you can hold on with like bishop c7 or something. But all right, king takes. Now I'm still concerned about f4. After f4, what's wrong with knight on bd7? Well, here, 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 here. I was worried about some exchange sacrifice. Like rook takes. I guess it's not working right away. It's not working right away. Yeah, I guess black's okay. Slight advantage to white. White actually should play f5, apparently. But anyway, okay, king takes. Now I'm concerned about f4. That's like the only move. I mean, in my opinion, f4 must be played. Estonian grandmom would play f4 in this position, but Uber's opponent played bishop takes f6. I mean, bro. Every Estonian grandmom. I'm not talking Estonian grandmoms. Estonian grandmoms know to play f4 in this position. Look at that. And the best move is f4, obviously. Never argue with an Estonian grandma. You should have taken with the pawn, bro. Taking with the pawn is better. It's safer. The grandma would have taken Uber Driver out here with the dynamic f4. This guy's like, bishop takes f6. Now my dilemma is deciding whether to take with the pawn or the king. Always outside the box. Always think outside the box. And then look for a reason it's not good, you know? I want to play the exceptional move because I can use that pawn to undouble the center, but he has knight g3. locking down f5. So we have to take with the king, which is fine. Unbelievable. The dude gave up his r-square bishop and then he played f4. That's so sick. It's just so sick. You just gave up the piece that's best in terms of controlling the dark squares and then turned out and played f4 the next move. It's like the dumbest combination of moves ever. I'm like, what's white gonna do? Just play for a draw somehow? I actually expected white would do like rook d6 check, and then on king e7 he would probably like double rooks or something and offer a draw, bringing his rook back to like d3, which is the proper thing to do at this point once you like screwed up by playing the ridiculous bishop takes f6, giving your good bishop up for nothing. But he gives his good bishop up for nothing and then plays f4 when his dark squares are like shredded. Look at that. And so Uber Driver has to start thinking about whether he should take or play it safe. Plays the aggressive move, giving up his strong point, but wrecking white's pawn structure. And now rook f1. And I don't care about any stupid pawns. You could play bishop c7. The problem is white might have g3. So you're probably making it worse, not better. I mean, I guess at that point you could play f3 and give the pawn up. So here, now, and like nothing can touch you on e7. Well, there's one thing that can happen. Like, you can get a knight on f5, but you can always play g6 if you have to. So now white is like desperately fighting for a draw. Plays a horrible b4, and then, you know, yeah, okay. You've got to consider bishop e6. This is probably best. Knight a4, knight c5, knight d7. And now you just took. But this is a move I don't want to play unless I have to. The problem is there's this threat of knight d5, double knights coming to d5. So if we do a routine move, we're in trouble. I'm not sure this works, but it looks really scary. I don't really want to know if this is okay for black. But what you can do is knight takes f4, bishop e5. And now black's clearly better. The knight's hanging on c3, so he has to move it or defend it. Probably move it. Move it, move it. This doesn't work. You know, I don't see anything here. This is busted. This is defended. But Uber Driver is not known for his concrete calculation. His motto is think as little as possible. So he gives away like a little chunk, or he gives away 2/3 of his advantage basically with bishop takes f4 just to be on the safe side. Did I see a draw for? Oh, you offered a draw with e takes f4. He's clearly better and offers a draw. This is just to trigger the opponent. Now here, and we're just walking right into a great exchange sack. Not clear. Yeah, this is unclear. Actually, either version. This, 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 and this. Probably not enough for white. And the other way, rook d7. It's the same basic premise. here, here, here. Take a pawn, any pawn. This is probably better, a better version. Still, white's not playing for a win. White's, I don't know what white's doing here. Randomizing the game. So Nefedov does that. He offers draws to like trigger me. So 97 F1. This is probably not great. You're better on the queen side. So I think ideally like B5, A5. White's under serious pressure here. He has a chance for this minority attack with the 2 pawns against the 3. Looks like his best shot, but your play on the queen side with B5 and A5 is really strong. So he does the right thing, and you played H6. I think you got to consider this too, dude. But I think it may not work, right? G5. G5 is too good. The problem is he has H4, and then you have knight G6. Okay. So here, he can't play H4 because of knight G6. So here, and that's, well, I was talking about that square before. Now A5 looks a little bit late, but actually not. Because this knight is not doing that much damage. One knight on F5 isn't going to kill us by itself. So now the guy goes here, and I expected you to take, breaking through on the A file. You didn't pull the trigger on it. So if you take knight F5 check, king F7, he's got a check here, but it doesn't really do anything. So he probably has to recapture. And then like the dude's getting mated. He's practically getting mated after knight C4. So I think you hesitated here by not exchanging on B4. You exchange on B4, he's in trouble, man. He doesn't have anything. This is just smoke and mirrors. Check, king F7, and white is like losing. He's just like losing. I mean, I don't think there's any way he could survive. This check, king E6, and now what's he gonna do? He's totally lost. So you hesitated, rook D8. Still, it's maybe enough. Oh, he has knight H6 check now. He can sack a piece. Yeah, not a great move though. I was gonna suggest this, but it's really not enough. So B5 was the best move. Feeding a pawn back to break down black's breakthrough on the A file. Stop black's breakthrough on the A file. Give you a pawn to buy him time. He can buy himself time to do his own counterplay with like H4 or something. Yeah. That's hard to find. He doesn't find that. He takes. Rook takes. This rook is very good here. So, you know, you could have played. I would expect you to play rook there. Rook D2. And now knight D3 check. Ouch. Very accurate tactical vision. Nice job. Okay. Thanks, Super Driver. I don't agree with you. I think you should just not play E5, you know. And I will share my proof here. Next, check this out. So, studies. My studies. There it is. All right. So check this out. The proof that it's better not to play E4, E5. This is an entertaining game, and then we'll follow up. We'll follow up with Asterbait. What do we got with McNutty next? This is the Ko-Kraken. So instead of e4, e5, your problem is, Uber driver, why are you playing e5? You know, I say, don't even play e5. Just play d6. You don't need to play e5. Don't worry about that. White plays d4. We play knight f6. White plays knight c3. And now, yeah, we don't need to play e5. It's too classical. This is just too classical, man. And give them, oh, no. We'll save that for later. We play a6. And now, white should play f4. But I have a secret weapon against this that will be revealed later. Our bishop g5, no big deal after e6. But we have here the Bodler. So this is an offhand, this is just entertainment. This is an offhand blitz game I played yesterday against some anonymous guy. Reached a really interesting position. So I played the Kraken, and my opponent played the Bodler Kraken, bishop c4. We have the Nefedov variation, the critical line with f4, the stupid bishop g5. I've encountered everything. The Sonia and Grandmom attack with like bishop e3 or whatever. I forget what she played. No, I think she did this against me. I was like, what is that? Yeah, she played bishop e2, sorry. But so we've got bishop c4. And now I like to play all different stuff here. But I played e6. This is an anti-Bodler, right? So you can play like a hippo, a sort of half a hippo, right? This isn't a hippo, it's a pygmy hippo. It's a little hippo. You just, the normal hippo, it's like this big, right? With the double fianchetto. But it turns out that the Estonian the Estonian grandmom that I beat, ironically, has a daughter who's like really strong. I didn't know that. The Estonian grandmom's daughter is like board 1 for the Estonian women's team, and she's like 2,400. So no wonder Estonian grandmom was pretty tough. Estonian grandmom is actually my age, first of all, and she has like a training partner who's a daughter who's like 2,400. So no wonder she wasn't that bad. Anyway, so what does white do? D5. Okay, I don't think this is like the best move, but it's not that bad. And normally when I play the hippo or whatever, I would just lock it up, but I don't think that's like ideal. It's not ideal to lock it up. General hippo rule, lock the center when they try to open it up. But this isn't really a true hippo, first of all. Secondly, I'm not sure that pawn takes pawn is even like a threat or something. So I provoke them with b5. And, in another game, in a very similar position, my opponent did like bishop b3, I think. And I just want to say that, like, if they did this, there's the option to play like b4 and try to take out their pawn on e4. You like saying bite, Uber driver. You're all about like, people eating their pets and whatever. Voodoo migrants eating people's pets have a lot of bite. They're like zombies. Anyway, okay, Merle Dixon. So b4. I wasn't going to do this because this is clearly... No, actually, I had a similar game where I did do something like that. Maybe you should go to a4. And then if I take here, okay, white can try like queen e2 and has some venom. After bishop e3, yeah, e5 looks more attractive. Exactly. I think I did do that in my other game, which was similar. I probably did do that. But again, if b4 here, I can probably take the pawn. If he goes here, I think maybe this is too dangerous. It's like a Nescafe frap attack. There's too many things like the rook on a8 stuff. So I probably wouldn't take the pawn. But he goes here. And when I see this, my first thought is like, okay, this diagonal. You know, if I try to grab the pawn, you know, he's gonna have some bishop f3 crap. So we're gonna see like b4, knight b1. You know, if I try to do this, let's say, if he plays knight b1, and I try to take this pawn, I don't know. You know, maybe there'd be some kind of counterplay on this diagonal. But anyway, this is where it gets fun. Okay, my opponent totally stunned me here. Just some random anonymous blitz game. I'm expecting knight a4 or knight b1. The dude goes pawn takes e6. And I was like, what? And, you know, the interesting thing here was like, I was so certain that this is completely unsound. And it turns out that it may not be that unsound. And it might be that Black's best move is not to take the piece. It's unbelievable. I mean, what would you guys do? If your opponent did this, what would you guys do? You know? Somewhat unsound. I said, it's the co-kraken, dude. It's a co-kraken. Uber driver. That's what it is. It's a co-kraken. You guys are witnessing the first ever co-kraken. So I seriously thought this is a joke at first. And then I was like, all right, I'll take it. But we can check it afterwards. Let's see what the engine says. Oh, it wants to recapture. Dude, this is sound. It's sound. Can you guys believe this? The evaluation, the engine is 0.3. I thought this dude was out of his mind, you know? And this is just complete bullshit. And I played the Cochrane Gambit for black. But I thought this is like a really bad Cochrane Gambit. So takes, pawn takes f7 check, king takes. And now, I think the engine said his best move is e5. Which is interesting. I didn't have time to think about it because he played this almost instantaneously. And I think objectively, I just totally like dismissed my opponent as a crazy idiot, you know. Because he played the opening so stupidly with bishop c4 and whatever. You don't know what you're facing. I remember the concept of king g6 even like popping in my head. Definitely not impossible, but not a good idea, right? Okay. So probably I should play maybe king e8. But borrowing from the Cochrane Gambit, I played this. And now he takes, and then takes, and then he finds just a fascinating move now. e5. And this was like a, I don't remember, it was 5-0 or 3+2 against an anonymous player. But approximately a 5-minute game either way. And after e5, I spent like half my time. I couldn't stop thinking about the possibilities here, you know? I'm like, there's got to be a way. There's got to be a way to win, that Black's winning. You know, there's got to be a way Black's winning, and I couldn't find anything. I can't move my knight. You know, I can't move my knight. I can't take the pawn. So, what do you do? So I figured it out. You know, borrowing from the Danish Gambit, after thinking for like 2 minutes in a 5-minute game, I decided to sack the piece back at this point. But I looked at simple ways to sack the piece back. You know, like, I was looking at simple things. You know, I guess like this or something. Let's say pawn takes whatever. My king is like sitting in the middle of the board. It's pretty open. I don't really like this. You know, this isn't safe. So safe is if I could trade queens. So I saw it and was like, okay, pawn takes b2, threatening to make a queen. Now he takes, and now you play pawn takes e5, sacrificing your queen at d8. And then it's like, now it's the Danish gambit line where you sack the queen and get it back with bishop e4 check. And so this was one of the best ways for black to play. Queen takes d8, bishop e4 check. And now he has to Danish gambit it. And after bishop takes d2, king takes d2, what's the evaluation? It's 5 pawns each. White has a bishop versus a knight. My king is better centralized. And I went on to win in like 6 moves. But black is slightly better with 0.4. Apparently I'm supposed to play knight e4 check, and I couldn't justify that move. I didn't see the idea like coming here, here, here probably. This is apparently the idea. So I just played this move and the computer says it's equal. At this point I started thinking, this guy is like an engine or something. Knight f3, check, and then the best move, king c1, which was unexpected. I would have anticipated this, but that gets in the way of his attack on the e-file. So it's not so great, actually. Probably in some position like this, black is like better. I have a centralized king and a powerful central pawn. So he does this, and now rook d5, rook e1, and then he's some checks here. So h6, and then the dude just, I mean, he's played like a genius, honestly, right? He's played 18, 20 moves like a genius. White is equal. And then he does this. I can't believe it. You know, c4. Well, I could believe it because I saw this. I have to go here, and then he has knight d2. And he's still fine, you know. So the guy plays like 20 moves like an absolute genius. The game is dead equal. If white plays knight d2, black has a 0-0. It's 0-0. And the same guy who played like an absolute genius does this. Check. What? It's unbelievable. Like, and that's the end. I mean, at this point he realized he hung a piece, so he started to do giveaway chess. So he realized his bishop takes d4, rook takes c4, check wins a piece. But I mean, come on, man. What a game. I mean, and so my question was, when I sacked the queen back, you know, the piece back, after the game, I wanted to check and see, like, what's the best move? This position, if I gave you this position as a puzzle, what would you do? And Sladgy is right. Sladgy's always right. Would you have found it acerbate the best defense for black in this position? Sacking the queen at d8. It ensures the queens will leave the board, and so my king is safe in the end. So that was the Ko-Kraken. All right, what's this? So here for chat, I've got 3 games left. We're analyzing games today. We're not talking about the Olympiad. Okay. Nefedov is up, and I don't know where he is, but whatever. So Nefedov against McNutty. E4. Uh-oh. The French. Bijak is here. All right. Poor Nefedov never gets his game done. He was here earlier, but he left. Probably drinking brown beer. All right, Bjock. Guys, please support the stream. Thanks to those of you who did donate today. We got $50 from Mr. Late. Oh, Sack Draw just tipped another $1.02 to make it weird. It's up to 1551.02. What is the 102? What is this, like Tron or something? No, that's 1 and zeros. Your donations are strategic. Man, I just lost the board. What the hell is it? Okay. We're gonna do simultanka. Simultanka. This is Schumacher versus Grandmaster Dejan Pikula. So our hero Schumacher is playing white. He is a GM from Serbia. Yeah. I never met him, but it's well known. He's black. Schumacher is black. I thought it was French. Yeah. Oh no. You switched. You switched. You switched the variation of death. Oh. I have a friend who just had a game in this and they lost with white. Or was it why are you playing the white side of this? I hate this variation. D takes c4, knight takes c4. Yeah, I think I like the two knights now. I'm gonna keep playing like knight f3. I also like the endgame line after d5, d3. That's very trendy. But I can't stand this. But you know, Aliakin famously claimed that he could play the EF Caro, you know, and never lose. But it was too drawish for his taste. So d takes c4, knight takes c4, knight f6. Problem is white doesn't have a good alternative. Like there is the gambit bishop d3. It's nothing. You know, I mean that tells you something, right? Aliakin played bishop d3 against his own variation. And although he rarely played the Caro-Kann, you know, he knows how good it is if he's playing bishop d3 here. So yeah. I mean, the thing is that black should probably take this pawn. Knight f3 and then queen d5. Renzo Matavani. It's not enough for white, that gambit. Unfortunately. You have to take. I've experimented with everything. This is lame. This is lame. I try to play this sometimes. It's nothing. You have to go into the line and then takes. And it's so lifeless for white. Like, I don't know how to win a game with white here. Look at the overall score. White barely has a plus score. So everybody plays c3. Now bishop d6. I don't think it's better than bishop f5, Bjock, but I do think it's simpler. It's very hard for white to get anything. Bishop d3. Now castles. And queen c2 is the main line. And then on rook e8 check, knight e2, black plays h5. And that's the starting point. This is the starting point for this variation. My friend had a game where she played an opponent who did g6, and that's an old move. But even this was never that easy, honestly. Like h4. Even this variation was never that easy to crack either. And black can also play h6, which is like the standard older line. So, so your guy does 92, and it gives you extra options, I guess. It's not as forcing as queen c2. You played bishop e6. So I would think you would do rook e8. And alternatively, you have queen c7 and maybe knight d7. But if knight d7, you're going to do rook e8, knight f8 in most cases anyway. I'm not sure if I like bishop e6. I know this is an idea. You think bishop g4 is still the best move? What, here? Well, I mean, white oftentimes will play f3. That will weaken this, though. So bishop g4 is another idea. Okay, queen c2 anyway. Oh, I see. So you take. Who's this Zenzera guy? Zenzera. Never heard of him. Well, I don't know. Bishop g4 is an option, but I would think you should just play rook e8. So, you know, the traps are like rook e8 castles, and if white tries to play bishop f4, this doesn't work. Bishop takes d6. Rook takes b2, and the rook gets trapped. White's main strategic plan is to like play bishop f4 and trade off your good bishop. But I mean, there you can go queen c7 and prevent it. This is just very solid for black. The main problem for white is that, I mean, for black is that this could be a winning king and pawning game for black. For white, sorry. This could be a winning king and pawning game for white. But it's so rare that that actually happens, you know? It's not like you could force all the pieces off the board. You know, I don't know about bishop e6. It was played by Tony Miles in 1998. He played Kasparov in 1998. I don't know that. That must have been like Linares or Miles must have qualified for a big tournament. Where was this? Tilburg? Oh, geez. Internet ICC. Internet match 3. Oh, that's weird. What is Miles? Why is Miles playing Kasparov on the internet in 1998? It must have been some Dos Hermanos tournament or something like that. That's weird. I don't remember Kasparov ever playing matches online on the Internet Chess Club. That's very strange. So queen c2, and now you did h6. Well, now that you've played bishop e6, we can't do this h5 anymore. It looks like white is slightly better. This is a new move. There's a knight f4. I don't understand your opponent's next move. He plays bishop e3. What is he doing? But Kasparov played 10 or 20 blitz games on ICC. Ah. So bishop e3, like, I don't get this. Like, what does this do? This is a very strange move. This totally makes sense. Bishop f4, trading off your good bishop at d6. I don't understand this other idea of going for your other bishop. So going for one of your bishops makes sense. I don't know why he's playing bishop e3. You could even play c5 if you want to. I'm not sure you want to. Just saying. That's crazy that you remember that Sasek draw. Okay. So you did play c5, but okay, what other options do you have? You know, rook e8. This transposes some games. And other than that, I mean, Black's only other plan is like probably something along the lines of b5. But I would think like you would make this stronger. Maybe like something like knight f4 would be even stronger if you weaken like these squares. Okay, so c5, and now this may or may not be a good idea. Sort of blockading his queen side. I think that's why he plays c4 here. He doesn't have to play c4, but I think he must be worried about this. My first reaction was to put a rook on the d file, but I think this is sort of a little awkward. So c4, and that happens frequently anyway. Okay, and so he's threatening maybe d5 with a big space advantage. So you take. I'm worried about your white square bishop, man. This white square bishop, you have a huge problem with the white squares. So in this position, I don't see how you can afford to do like f takes e6, man. Queen c7 with the plan, So instead of c5, queen c7, maybe. If white plays c4, you're attacking h2 with check. White would probably have to play h3. That's really funny. Here's a game by Rogelio Antonio, who ironically was the last person I saw play a good game on the white side of this variation. So no wonder he knows how to play the white side. We were at the World Senior 2 years ago in CC, and one of the last rounds, Rogelio was playing black. No, sorry, white against some guy playing the Caro-Kann. And one of the only games I've seen recently where someone played well with the white pieces and beat black consistently. That makes sense. You know, that someone who plays it for black would then know how to play with the white side. Yeah, if you wanted to play f5, we should have played g6. So, yeah, but maybe queen c7 is better. But what do we do? You still end up having to do c5. Rogelio played c5 now. And there's another game with b5. And there's another game with rook fe8. And this has been played by Camel Dragoon, Radlovaki, some other title players. The computer cheater, Falco Bindrich, German grandmaster who got busted cheating. I played him once when he was a kid. They organized some tournament here with his father or something. But anyway, not good to get caught cheating as a grandmaster and like banned. Bindrich was really bad. I don't know what's up, if he's retired or embarrassed to play. So c5, c4, c takes d4. So you don't have to play c takes d4, but what are you going to do about d5? It's a problem. So you like have to take now here. I think you have to be able to recapture with a piece on e6, man. So I'm thinking like knight c5 is b-jack is mandatory. That way you're threatening his bishop and you can recapture with the knight. Maybe recapturing with the knight isn't so bad. You don't weaken your position so much. I feel like this is defensible. Like he has a strong bishop, but you also have like good dark square control. What I don't think you should do is take back with a pawn on e6. This looks really ugly. I mean, after knight d4, you played knight e5. He took, and this is just really ugly. I don't like this situation on the king side. I think that you're in deep shit here, honestly. There's no way. So checkmate 944 says if he gets light square bishop for white, 3+2 is more dangerous than 4+3. Nah, I think it's fine for black. Fine for black. With this Swiss cheese over here. Wait, has the bishop pair and a queenside majority? Fine if your opponent is like 1400, maybe. Phew, bro, wow. The engine is very generously claiming that you're only half a pawn worse. I think it looks horrible, but you can hold up that dark square blockade. B6, A3, A5, F4. It's very ugly. I will have to say. This is very, very ugly. And I'm definitely never going to believe you if you say that black is equal. But I am surprised that the advantage is not as big as I thought. I thought white would be solidly over a pawn. White would be solidly over a pawn better. But I still say there's no reason to allow your pawn structure to be ruined. Are you telling me like you thought you're like improving your pawn structure in a sense, because the pawn's like undoubled? I mean, there is something to be said for that, but I'm not sure, which is worse, having doubled pawns or having your pawns like weakened on the white squares. This might be worse than the other structure where the pawns are like that. Yeah, you don't want b4. But it's knight c5 is not your only move. You could play rook e8, for example, and take with a rook. I was wondering about this sort of thing. Like a reasonable try. So you go here. He plays, knight e6, grandmaster. He does exactly what I thought. Bishop e2, exactly. And so now b6 was best. Your move looks okay, but a7's hanging. So probably safer to do this. Here. Now if bishop takes a7, okay, grandmaster playing simul, not inclined to go grabbing pawns on a7 unless his name is like, Ivanchuk. So can he take that? Bishop takes a7. Wow. Oh yeah, no, you're trapping the piece. All right, I'm sorry. I saw it, but I for some reason I thought like he was getting this. Sorry, it was a hallucination. Okay. So obviously you have b6, a3, h3, b6, b3. Why b3? To protect the pawn. Okay, b3. And now bishop c5. Yeah, now we have a problem. Pikula played bishop d2. But maybe bishop c1. But maybe d2. If d2, you go here. So he goes here, and then anyway, like, bro, you're crazy to play b5. You have no business doing this. This is crazy. You're like playing on his side of the board with b5. You have a solid blockade. You shouldn't play b5. You're okay. You know, you're kind of just hanging on. So why not go like here or something and just trade off the rooks and try to get a draw or something after b5. Well, I'd really like to play bishop takes h6, but unfortunately, since I can't play f4, I don't think that's gonna work. Yeah, this being pinned. King h1 maybe. And then after pawn takes pawn, we can do this. I was hoping to do this and like f4 and hopefully get down in there. But I guess this is probably not enough. You end up being up a piece. It doesn't work. But I'm trying to think of something sensational. b4. So that would break the pin on the diagonal and allow for f4. What are you telling me like this works? Now takes f4. That can't be the solution. I'm too obsessed with this idea. So b4 is like it's a setting up queen b2 or queen b3. Okay, something simple. b4 bishop takes queen b3. Take the bishop or take the pawn. And white is clearly better. He's gonna have 2-on-1 and 2 bishops. But still, you're not like lost or anything. This is pretty nasty though. So he didn't find it naturally. It's hard to find b4. He just played like an okay routine move. You take, he takes the bishop. You grab this, and now if queen e6, you have queen f7. But I mean, he has to consider this. Queen e6, queen f7, queen f7, rook f7, pawn takes c4. It's a draw. Because after bishop b6, you're going to stack up on that pawn. It's a draw. Knight takes c4, queen takes c4. If he does it this way, he has a queenside majority, but you're hanging on. Now, you could play e5, but then d7. You can't give up d7. Wow. So this was a really active move. You didn't defend passively. You could defend passively here with rook e8. Instead, you played active defense. Does this work? Rook takes rook, rook takes rook. It's a little scary. And after e5, you have a lot of like dark square pawns. And then you got a tactic on him. Check here, and then you would think like f1 would be safer, but maybe it's not, because really he's going back there. Now after this, white is seriously losing. Check, king h2, and queen c5. It's a draw now. Well, you're better. You're up a pawn and a queen and rook in game. Oh no, yeah, you're better. I mean, it's not a draw. Oh, it ended in a draw, like there were more moves, and you didn't. Okay, a rook versus rook in game. Okay, yeah, that was interesting. All right, guys, last two games. Checkmate Leela, node one mode capped, whatever that means. So this is Checkmate versus Leela. So this is our last submission from Bagzi. And Ripun sent in a game. I know I'm late, but you can put in next week's analysis. Okay. Let's make next week's analysis now. Open study. Copy. We'll put this in next week. Chapter PGN. Okay, Ripun. It will go in for next week. Copy. And then we'll make a new study. Tools. Learn, study. Always need Smartboard study September 26th. All right. Have you seen my panda? Where's my panda? All right. Oh no, it's no game. All right, whatever. I'll remember. As long as I know it's you. Let's see. One chapter. Can I fix it? Doesn't let me fix it. All right, whatever. We'll fix it next time. So, next game, I've got, thanks to Schumacher for that game. That was a good one. We've got Checkmate 944. The fielder will always be passive, but I understand trying to play it. So Bagsy, practice game, checkmate. That's you. Okay, you're white. I get it. So this you against Leela. All right, I get it. So you're playing white. The computer played b6 and then g3, and you played bishop a6. Yeah, I tried to do this the other day. I never played this line. It was so popular in the 90s, and in those days I didn't really play the Queen's Indian much. I mostly played like King's Indian. And then, I started playing the Queen's Indian a lot later. After this line wasn't quite as popular as it was. It kind of reached a fever pitch, I guess, with like Leiko and the early 2000s. Late 90s, early 2000s. Topalov, Leiko. No, Topalov. Yeah, Topalov, Leiko had some games. I mean, Leiko played it all the time. Karpov, obviously. But I played it the other day. My opponent played Queen C2. So this seems to be... This is considered by many, I think, to be the most dynamic move. B3 is like the standard. Queen C2 is the grandmaster. Don't start with Queen A4. That's what I played forever, and it's nothing. I know driver because I played like 20 tournament games with Queen A4. This is the best move, or this, and Queen A4 is just a sideline. So B3, check, Bishop D2, Bishop E7, here, and now, yeah, there is a famous line where now I'm talking about Topalov. I don't remember it was Topalov Kramnik. Topalov had this funny game where he, some line you don't go Bishop G2 or something. You just play like right Just play knight c3. So knight c3 is sharper. Like, okay, the older move is this, but this is more dynamic. You can play e4 and not even do bishop g2. I always associate that with Topalov. But I guess that's, like if black castles here. So castles, e4, d5, e5, for example. Or maybe this is more standard. Bishop takes f1, king f1. Karpov, Anand. So Anand was the big guy with black. I mean, Karpov was the big guy with black originally in this line. So d5, cd5, ed5. Now there's no time for e4. This makes complete sense. White doesn't have a big advantage. Castles, castles, bishop b7. So bishop b7 it's a little bit counterintuitive, isn't it? I wouldn't want to play bishop b7. This is a very long game. Is this a really mega long game? 56 moves. All right. I wouldn't want to retreat that bishop voluntarily if I was the computer. You would think like you would at least wait. White's going to play rook e1 at some point. Maybe not now. If the bishop's on a6, maybe not, we don't do it now. I would think like rook c1, bishop f4. White doesn't really benefit from the playing of b3. See, this is a target. But either way, if you go like rook c1, that could be attacked. What happens if rook c1? Black can do knight a6 anyway. So the main move is knight a6 to support c5, and then take with the knight in a lot of lines. Maybe even go to b4. But the computer plays knight on bd7. He played this. This is all theory. Rook e8, solid move. Bishop f4, c6, and then knight e5. So we're following theory. And then knight on e5. Carlsen lost with black, playing knight f8. 2008 against Kramnik. But question is, can you take it? Computer takes it. There's once, like a few years ago, like 2 years ago, Kramnik lost a game against Dubov where he refused to take this knight on e5 when it looked very obvious. Sometimes Carlsen has a tendency to be a little too macho against the younger up and coming grandmasters. I think that was part of the problem with Hans. But if this is possible, I would want to play it. Notice that no one played it from these grandmasters. They're all grandmasters with black. Not a single player played knight takes c5. Okay, this is a computer not on full strength. But yeah, I mean here, this is obviously non-threatening. This is the question. And it looks good because you're threatening d4. Sorry, e4. But I've had this happen before. If, for example, black goes here, yeah, you have e4 here. This actually looks very strong. There's no d4. Black has knight h5. Yeah, but knight h5. I guess you can play e4, but then again, this is possible. So after knight h5, what do? He can play g6, but mainly he's going to try to take the bishop. This is absolutely critical. So this doesn't seem to work. I mean, e4 looks very strong. Okay, there is a possibility here, actually, but it looks really, really dangerous. Sometimes there are these lines where g5 happens in such positions. But honestly, I mean, that looks incredibly dangerous for black. For example, pawn takes pawn. You have to recapture. Now white can go, who knows, maybe even sack piece. Yeah, but anyway, I think you have to take with the pawn to be dynamic. This leaves you with just almost no advantage. Maybe a tiny 0.1. But if you're playing a computer, okay, you feel like, okay, I'm playing a computer, I want to play safe. Takes, queen takes knight e4. I would have expected the engine to play knight d7. I mean, this is the rook getting trapped after like bishop f4, rook e2, bishop e3? That may be trapped. I think that's the problem. So can't calculate. Knight e4 here. Yeah, I mean this move g5 is is really weakening, and black doesn't need to do that. That's short horizon type of move. I think black is weakening their position too much. So at this point, I would think like you go here and bring your rooks to the middle. And your bishop's bad on b2, but hopefully it's just temporary. After e3, you lose some flexibility. And now it's hard to break him out. You may not be able to get it out of e4, so I think this is important here. And then you don't play e3. You want to always maintain the ability to play f3, so you can get his knight off of e4. Though, I don't know that you're better. I don't think you're worse. But this move may be hard now to do anything. It's probably your only chance here, obviously, on the queen side now. And then taking this, well, that forces a trade of queens. Because if pawn takes, you have queen c4. Fancy chess. My best friend, repunch here. Oh, okay. Fancy chess. Fancy late night chess. With a bandana. Okay, d takes e4, bishop a3. So you still have some chances. I expected black to try to get its bishop to d5, but maybe it had no time. It lost the f6 pawn. How dangerous is this line? As I always say, opposite-colored bishops, material doesn't matter that much. The line's not so dangerous because you have like bishop f4. He has c5. So you got him pinned up, and now you're clearly better. You're winning a second pawn. So is this a draw? It's a draw, right? This should be a draw. Oh no. You're not getting a7, are you? This has to be a draw. You took a draw here. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a computer. All right. Last game is Nepudov. He has left the building. He is white. He's playing the white side of the French. E4, E6. This is a league game. Nepudov's first league game of the year. Thank you for that game. Checkmate 944. Interesting Queen's Indian against a weak computer with no calculation. Still not easy. Nepudov usually plays this line A3. And by this point, I would think like all of his opponents have like a notebook on his openings. He's a little too predictable. So this is a sideline against the winnower. Check, takes, and then black's supposed to play pawn takes pawn. And Nepudov knows this pretty well. The queen g4. I guess this line is attributed to Aliakin. He always corrects me on my pronunciations, and I know I'm losing my pronunciation skill. Does A3 have a name? So it's just winnower variation, and there's no specifying A3. We'll call it Aliakin. Takes here. This is bad. How bad is it? You're supposed to take the pawn, and obviously not everyone wants to trade off their central pawn, but this is going to fall. And you don't want to be like Nimzovich and be playing like F5 or whatever. I don't remember how that went. That was a different variation, maybe. That was a 92. Like Ayakin Nimzovich. So it's supposed to go d takes e4, queen g4. And on knight f6, he plays queen g7, rook g8, queen h6, stuff like this, and then queen e3. I think here. It's all been very well analyzed. But king f1 is a move, right? Huh? King f8? Ah. I didn't know that. No, I mean, it's been played by a couple people. Well, the main line is knight f6, sacking the pawn. That's considered to be, like, standard. Black has to be careful with the dark squares, but white doesn't have a lot of development. This line is known to be, like, nothing special for white, but it's effective against people who don't know sidelines. So Nepudov keeps using it against people, and the majority of like club players who play the French just they're not familiar enough with the side variation, so he's doing okay with it. Immediately, black makes like inaccurate move, and now e5, and so knight e4 doesn't look right. It'll likely get trapped. That was actually played twice. So if knight e4, I mean knight e2, what is black gonna do? If knight e4, knight e2. If knight e4, we can't play f3 because of queen h4 check. So if knight e4 here, I'm going to turn the book off for a second. If knight e4, we're trying to trap this knight. I'm not sure about this pawn, but among other things, like this looks good, and we're threatening f3. Then black has to do stuff like f6. And then on f3, you get this kind of thing. And it's like a bad Aliakim. Exactly. I wouldn't trust this position for black. It doesn't look right. So after e5, you have, and queen g4 is very dangerous. So I don't know what to recommend. This actually looks like a McCutcheon, doesn't it? if you think about it. Probably queen g4 also needs to be considered. It's very similar to McCutcheon. And Black has to do like g6 or Repunch is talking about king f8. King f8 here, yeah, that's fine, but you're like, your knight is weird. So this is seriously problematic for Black, and I don't think that knight g8 is great, but there is no good move. What does the computer say? Ooh. If knight g8 is the best move, Black's in deep shit already. You know, this looks like a really slow variation, but that's the computer says. Here, this is the most like natural type of move for a club player. But look at those pieces. Look at that slaggy squares. All your pieces are on a 4x2. Damn, that's his slaggy square. Slaggy square is this actually. He's got his original slaggy square. White also. So slaggy squares aren't perfect. Okay, knight fd7, queen g4. And now castles bishop h6 wins the exchange. So king f8 is recommended. Under the circumstances, with no darks for a bishop, I would really not love to play g6. Because obviously, like, bishop g5 looks game over. So if you play king f8, maybe you can deal with that with f6. I think this is objectively no, Nefedov plays in some league, and not all the opponents are weak. Some of them are quite strong. This guy seems on the weaker side. But knight fd7, queen g4, I would think king f8 is more or less forced. So this move is rarely ever played. You solve one problem, but you have another problem. Now h7 is hanging. And like bishop d3. Now if you played bishop g5, which is natural too. So it's a dilemma. I mean, bishop g5 looks interesting. Actually, yeah. I just realized, shit, this is the move. There's no need for bishop d3. He doesn't have it because of queen e6. He can't play f6. Mama needs to sharpen her tactics. I was thinking like Black has f6, but this is obviously... Well, you know, let's have a look at this, because is it that clear? It's not good, but our bishop's hanging. How simple is this? Oh man, you could play like queen takes d5, sack the bishop, and then play bishop c4. Ooh. Game over, bro. Yeah, that's it. So Black would have to find another move. You could attack the queen first and then take the bishop. So that might be a problem. No. But how? If c6, queen d6 check. Black doesn't have an in-between move. It's like he's lost. So, played f5. I mean, it's like question mark, but what do you want it to play? What do you want him to play? Like knight f6? Does he have this? Are you freaking kidding me? Don't tell me Black has knight f6. That would be really disturbing. Does this seriously work? Takes. and we're pinned. We have to give the piece back. Yeah, but the problem is if queen f3, h6. You know, the old standard. We're getting out, you know, we're going to do g5. We're not going to lose a piece. That's the thing. Unbelievable. I was looking at this. We win a pawn, but not even like permanently. Don't make me call Granny. Seriously. H6. Oh my god. White can't win a piece here. I'm not sure he can even win a pawn. So what square? I was thinking here. That's not good either. Yeah, that's a hard move to find. What's the problem? Bishop f6? Oh, bishop f6. You guys need to wake me up. Bishop f6. God damn it. I need to get stronger audience. We need to get a stronger audience if you guys can't see bishop takes f6. Come on. Well, I don't understand. It's like f5 question mark. What the hell do you want black to play? There is no other move. You said bishop takes f6, but you didn't capitalize it. I thought you wanted to play b pawn takes f6. All right. Oh, this is crushing. f5 question mark. Well, it's lost the other way. Ooh, God. Ugh. What was this guy's rating? Let me guess, h6. But he saved his queen. Yeah. The lamb to the slaughter. Nefedov was not messing around. Look at that. He's had enough. So, after queen g4, king f8 is best. If bishop g5 here, black has queen e8. Oh, of course. So king f8 is worlds better. Not often you have to do that in the French. Meet bishop g5 with queen e8, but it's the only move that looks like it really survives. Okay, this isn't as bad as the game either. So the computer thinks maybe h4. It's very McCutcheon-like. You know, but this traffic jam on the queen side doesn't help black, and it's not a normal McCutcheon. So after e5, what's up with knight e4 again? Still probably a better option than knight d7. Yeah, play it like a McCutcheon. Here, in McCutcheon, you would do g6. You can also do king f8. That's also a modern idea in the McCutcheon, right? Now a4. This is Uber Driver's big thing. Knight e4, queen g4, king f8, and now a4 with the idea of bishop a3 in some lines. Well, you know the French. Fancy chess. The Duna is like on the verge of overflowing its banks. There was flooding in up and down the river, and I saw a picture yesterday. It's like 1 meter higher than it's supposed to be. It would be like catastrophe. Anyway, I'm not close to the river now, but my other apartment was closer. Good thing I moved. After I moved out of my other apartment, apparently someone went by there and told me that outside my window they're doing like massive street construction, so I would have lost my mind by now. Anyway, that's it, guys. We're not doing coverage of the Olympiad. I will see you tomorrow night for maybe possible Red Dead Redemption. I don't know. We'll see how I feel. Friday night's up in the air. I don't normally stream on Friday nights, but I haven't done a Red Dead Redemption poker stream in a while. We'll see. I might feel like doing just a fun stream, but mostly Friday. We do have our Blitz stream tomorrow. Friday, 12 noon, CEST, and then Sunday simul at. So we do have an afternoon midday stream, and then Sunday afternoon, obviously, the iconic Sludgy simul. I will see you guys. I will see you guys. Yeah, tomorrow. Bye bye. Thank you for the donations, guys. Later.